Hi everyone. Sorry I can't be there today. Joel has asked me to give a brief introduction as to my role and the work I do with schools. I'm a carbon support officer working with schools in the Diocese of Truro. So my role is to support the Church of England's vision of net carbon zero by 2030 in their schools. So I work with the 43 Church of England schools in Diocese of Truro. Um, and how I work with them kind of varies whether I'm working with individual schools or with trusts. Um, the starting point is working with schools to create and craft an action plan. Within this action plan, there's a number of different strands focused on how they can incorporate patient care into their curriculum. And I do that with input from my colleague, Green. How they can access funding to support their decarbonisation work, and I'll kind of come to that in a little bit. How they can start to embed a culture of kind of energy efficiency and focusing on reducing carbon. And then how they can ensure that there's good governance and systems in place to support the analysis of the impact of the methods or the interventions that are being put into place. So depending on whether a school is part of a large trust or is a maintained school will determine how I work with them. With a standalone academy or maintained school, I'll work quite closely with the head teacher or a nominated sustainability lead. And these sustainability leads, their role has kind of, the Department for Education a couple of years ago came up with a climate change strategy. And one of the things they were looking for all schools to have, it's not mandated, it's just kind of an expectation that by the end of 2025, all schools would have a climate action plan, which would be owned by a nominated sustainability lead. So I work with the school leadership to identify sustainability lead, and then I will kind of support them to understand and implement the action plan. If I'm working with a trust, this may well be done at a trust level. So for example, I might work with the estates team or the lead for the estates team across the trust to implement climate action plans across their schools. A key part of our role, as well as working kind of with each school individually, is to work them to develop a network of schools and trusts that are committed to climate action across Cornwall and across the diocese. So along with colleagues in the education team, we've begun to establish termly meetings where we get trusts and standalone schools together and we get them to share what they've done. So whether that's looking at how recycling contracts, their approach to solar panels, or how they start to embed their action plans. And so as we can kind of build this collaborative network of trust that kind of, and schools that are taking ownership of this and not relying on us. But where we fit in as members of Diocese of Truro is I'm there to support the schools, to give them the capacity, but also to share my expertise. There's obviously a lot of information out there, a lot of different organisations, whether they be private sector companies or charities who want to work with schools. So I can kind of support schools to understand which are the best ones to access. And then one of the kind of challenges that may come that I kind of encounter a bit in my role is when we think about decarbonisation, often people immediately go to the big expensive project like replacing gas and oil boilers with heat pumps. That's very much kind of the end of the journey. So we focus on the culture and embedding really strong principles for action, and then start doing the small changes, whether that's looking at putting in LED lighting or thinking about how we can optimize heating systems and the timings of them. And then hopefully these small steps will help schools on that journey. And then when we get to kind of the bigger works, then there's funding in place. Now I support schools along with regional consultants who the National Church of England have identified to work with schools in different dioceses. And we support them to understand the different funding streams and then to apply for them. And one thing just to kind of bear in mind is that all of these funding schemes are very much based on trying to have maximum impact. So schools who have new heating systems are not eligible for funding. So we really kind of the support is targeted at those that most need it. So for example, if you want to apply to replace your heating system, your boiler needs to be at least over 10 years old. So that's kind of one thing that is worth bearing in mind, that we definitely, replacing boilers and things like that is for those schools that really need it, and is very much not the starting point. So as I say, I'm sorry I can't be there to answer any questions. However, please do get in contact with me if you'd like to discuss any part of my role, whether that is you have any expertise you'd like to share, or just any questions or comments. So I will share my details with Joel, who can share them at the end of this presentation. And I'll be delighted to hear from any of you with any of your thoughts or comments.